Injury report, we got, fortunatately we got through the game pretty healthy, the last game, so really nothing new on the injury front for us. So if I'm missing something or if I forgot about something with that, let me know. Who? Ventrell? Yeah, just cramp. But we got through really clean. Talking to the trainers, there's nobody new on the report. So, a big game for us this week. Obviously, coming off a couple of emotional games. One of the great challenges of the Southeastern Conference is not the individual game; it's the game after game after game after game that you play. And so, great challenge as you come off this week that we've had. 3 pretty emotional games in a row, and tough games. We found different ways to win each of them, But as I think I said after the game, and I talked to our team about this morning, is for us to become the type of team that we want to have, and the type of team we want to be this year, and the type of program we want to have. You're constantly getting better, and you have to get better, and it happens at practice. So we need to have a much better week of practice this week than we did last week if we expect to win. A little bit more physical. We're playing obviously a tough team in Vanderbilt with a very veteran quarterback, the league's leading wide receiver. They got one of the most veteran offensive lines in the league. They can hit you with explosive plays. They can play ball control game. Excellent defense. And usually this game's been pretty close in the years past. You watch them over a team right now that, they had a right down to the wire game against Notre Dame at Notre Dame and the team that everybody's saying should be going to the playoffs now. And they're going to be a huge challenge for us as it keeps going. Because it's the multitude of games. It's not just the one. It's keeping that mental toughness from one week to the next, to the next, to the next. And I think our guys have done a great job of that. Every week so far this season, I think we've practiced better and we've played better. When it's the mental toughness now, can you do that? Is this the 7th consecutive week of doing that? Can you do that for 7 consecutive weeks is the big challenge for us to continue to improve.
And especially the last 3 atmospheres you've dealt with at Tennessee, at Starkville, and then the one here. Is there anything you can do to kind of guard against complacency when it's not going to be that kind of atmosphere?
Well, it'll be. I know we talked about it this morning. I'm sure. I've played in games up there. It's going to be a different atmosphere than what we've seen. But that doesn't have to affect our performance on the field and how we play and how we execute, and how we practice all week. It's not going to affect that, so for our guys to have any thought except for how hard I can go on the next play would be us taking a step backwards as a team, and that has to be the focus of everybody within the program. I'm sure there's going to be, I haven't been up there in a long time. Last time I was at Vanderbilt, I want to say was my first year at Mississippi State. And I've been there here twice before that. I think it seemed like every one of those games came right down to the wire, to the final play when you're there. I think we'll have a pretty good fan turnout. I know they'll, obviously with Florida coming to town, they're going to try to get as many people there as they can too, and make it a big home field advantage for them that way. But just because it's not the biggest stadium doesn't mean that we have to affect our performance on the field.
Yeah, Nick Saban used the expression last week, trap game.
Okay.
Are you a believer in this?
Not in that way. I'm a believer in that if you don't prepare the right way, you can't expect to win the game. So, I don't know that a trap game comes up as much as guys trying to catch their breath after continually improving. It becomes the mental toughness. So a trap game, as people define it, I guess, and say it is, okay, hey, you've had several tough games in a row. I can look at our guys this week and say, hey, we've played 3 really tough games in a row, and we have a bye week the following week, right? And the mindset can be, boy, the coach, I can't wait to catch my breath. I can't wait to just take one play off at practice or so I guess that's where a definition of that could come. More than, I'll be honest with you, more than the opponent you're facing is yourself and your own attitude of the mental toughness, of can we continually improve and get up and, every day. It's like, right, it's like that early morning run, right? I mean, you sit there and say, boy, I've run 4 days in a row, and I ate a salad yesterday for lunch. I'd love to sleep in this morning, but right, it's not good. You got to get up and you got to improve every single day if you want to be successful.
What's been the challenge week to week with the offense? Obviously, it's not firing on all cylinders and greased up like, for example, the 2008 team where you guys could just do what you wanted. You got to kind of be creative, and we've seen it.
Yeah.
What's the challenge for game planning each week with you?
I don't know. That's relatively, trying to compare our offense to the 2008 team's really not fair per se, right? I mean, you're talking about a team with a veteran group with a guy that just hung his name in the stadium at the quarterback position. He had about 7 NFL wide receivers, right? I mean, the whole line's still playing in the NFL. And the tailback has a gold medal around his neck. Is how fast he is. So. That team, I don't know that team always fired on all cylinders, but, you could call counter and both guards pull and hit each other, and Percy still would go score a 70-yard touchdown. So, right. But I think, one of the things I've seen with the offense is, like I always get to is consistency. I love consistency within offensive performance, and I think we're getting better at it, from better consistency within the offense and with our execution of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to accomplish. Because overall, if you look at the offense, besides, I think it's a fault of several things. I think we, on the opening drive last week, we go down, we hit an explosive play, we throw an interception on play 2. I think we lost a little bit. I don't know if I got conservative. And we seem to, the next 3 possessions, we seem to be back to the wall, and I got conservative. And that's a real bad combination. And for the offense, you're already backed way up near your own goal line, and I got conservative in my play call, and we go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out. You can sit there and yell, boy, that's terrible. Bless you. And I thought it was a lack of consistency too, but it's on all of it. A lack of consistency on my part as much as our execution on the guys on the field. So we're always striving. I want to, I want to score every time we have the ball, and I don't want us to give up a yard. As you draw it up, but that's probably pretty unrealistic. Yeah, he passed the mic. He's passed the mic.
After his bad question on the 08 team.
Yeah.
Dan, I'd like to ask you about your demeanor on Saturday. You did quite a few jumping jacks out there, and you were very enthusiastic going into the field. You did the Tim Tebow circle afterwards. You look awfully fired up. What was going through your head when you were doing that?
Well, I mean, what I want to do is make sure everybody understands in the crowd. Everybody, all the students, and the Gator Nation. And maybe it's been a bit for them, right? I mean, this is the first time in a couple of years we had a sold-out stadium, and I want to make sure they remember, how critical they are. I mean, I think our student body and the Gator Nation, the people that were in the stadium, had as much to do with us winning the game as the guys on the field. They certainly had as much to do with that, and I just, just like I was pumping up the guys on the field, I was trying to make sure they understood it was going to be a critical moment of the game. We're at a critical time of the game, and there's no time for them to get tired. Every single person on that stadium needed to be on their feet, creating in a frenzy, creating that home field advantage for us that we needed. And I just, you know, they were a little further away from me than the players. So that was just my way to communicate to them that it was time to make sure they were on their feet, standing up and down, going crazy, because they were critical. And as the end, as you saw, as a result, they were. At the end, the stadium was deafening, certainly, and intimidating. And like I said, our student body, the band, did amazing. You know, I always think the band kind of leads the student body in the crowd, and they did a great job of leading all of those people to help us get a victory.
Play calling. The left-handed pass,
Yeah.
which obviously could crawl through.
That I didn't have as creative a name for. I apologize.
Well, I mean, you obviously put that in. I understand he told you, Coach, I can throw the ball a little
Yeah.
bit. And how'd
Yeah.
that go down?
Well, you know, I mean, as you look for guys that, you know, if you're going to do deceptive trick plays, you look for guys that have different skill sets. And, you know, Luke is a guy that can throw is left-handed, can throw left-handed. So you fake a jet sweep to the left with him, and he can stop and throw back. And so, you know, and then you put it in and you see, because, you know, everybody tells me they can throw, right? I mean, it's like a guy saying, Coach, I was a two-sport athlete. I could play baseball for us. You know, I'll be like, great, you know, go over and see Sully real quick and take some BP, right? And like, Coach, I hit a bunch. Good. Go to Sully tomorrow and tell him to throw you a breaking ball, and then hustle back over to football, right? I mean, you know, good. I can hit a fastball. Good. Okay, let him start throwing a couple of breaking pitches and then get back into the weight room. But, you know, so we put him in there and practice, and then he starts, you know, you see that he can throw, and he's pretty accurate with it, and you practice it. I think we've practiced it a couple, you know, usually on the deceptive plays, you practice them for a couple of weeks, and then you feel that pretty confident in making that call. And so, you know, a lot of our deceptives, like I said, even in training camp, we run a ton of them, but we put a bunch of deceptives in training camp. You know, so there's just a little bit of it's in the back pocket, and then you pull it out and you practice it usually for a week or two, then it's ready to go in the game.
Now, you named the other play, Kodak Black, I believe,
Yeah.
was the one that
Just Kodak for short.
This one just called throwback?
It was just called throwback, kind of boring.
How about Tebow or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, he gets enough accolades already, doesn't he? Huh? Did Tebow ever catch a pass while I was here?
Yeah.
Did he? I don't know. I don't remember. I do know there were multiple games at Mississippi State, because there was one guy, like Dak Prescott, ran for, caught, and threw a touchdown pass in multiple games. And I had a receiver, Jamion Lewis, I think. I think it was in one game, we had a quarterback and a receiver both catch, throw, and run for a touchdown or something like that. It was a whacked-out deal, a stat we had once. So, yeah. Edgar, let's compare our offense to the 2017 offense instead of the 2008 or the 2016. I don't want to pick on the one year. Like, there's lots of years between now and 2008 we could have picked, to be perfectly honest with you.
Dan, what happened on the interception in the end zone? Was it a bad read, bad pattern, or combination?
It was bad protection to start with. You know, I mean, right there, I mean, he's the second he put his foot in the ground, he's got somebody hitting him right in the chest. So it starts with bad protection. And then it goes to, I guess, bad decision-making in what he was trying to accomplish once he realized he was about to get hit and couldn't put anything on the throw. You know, so if you look at the throw as I think it was Morrill breaks open, he's about to get hit, and he said instead of trying to rifle it into Morrill, as Morrill was open right there in front of the DB, he tried to throw it away and couldn't get enough on it because he's going backwards to his back. And, you know, you're best in that situation, just in experience. You're best in that situation, just hold on to the ball. If you can't throw it, if you're not 100% going to throw it out of bounds, throwing it away right there, significantly over everybody's head, we'll play the next play. You know, we'll find a way. We're in the red zone. You know, at least you want to definitely get points.
So a teaching moment there then.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, there's every play of the game right now for a lot of our guys, experience-wise, are teaching moments.
Brett Heggie played significantly more snaps than he had. What did you see out of his play?
You know, I thought he graded out a champion, so he which was pretty good to see in the course of a game. And I thought at times he played pretty physical. So I thought that was good, and it's, good at getting that experience, getting that game time in there. And we'll see how practice goes this week to see who's going to get the most reps.
Morrell Stevens, you mentioned him. How did you figure that this kid could play? Because he's been here 5 years and done very little of anything, and now all of a sudden it seems like you guys are maximizing.
Well, he's very athletic and has really good ball skills. I think one of the things is, when I got here, he's just underdeveloped. I looked at his numbers and his testing numbers in the weight room, and I'm like, what have you done for the last couple of years? Because benched about the same as I did, and I run now. I don't lift as much anymore. And, and so I'm like, but it's just not right. And so he started training. And to be honest with you, you're starting to see now, it's a tragedy that we don't have him for longer where he can get a real off season to let his body develop. He might have a future even beyond this year if he decides to work at it, because I think he's just scratching the surface of what his development could have been. He got really good hands, and he's really athletic, really good ball skills, and really athletic. And he just, didn't train to the level he needed to be successful and be physical enough to play tight end.
Yeah, after the game, you kind of gave the offensive line a so grade. There were good things, bad things, and you mentioned that play. But I think we're right on this, that LSU had gone 42 straight games with a sack and didn't have one in this game. Whether after you looked at the film,
wow,
how did they kind of grade out?
They were solid. Like I said, I still think inconsistency. I think you look at times that our quarterback. I am happy. If you do look at a big number in the game was negative yardage plays. I think they had 11, we had 2. Which kind of shows we didn't hurt ourselves. We didn't have a lot of self-inflicted mistakes. We did with penalties, which was disappointing, but self-inflicted mistakes within execution of plays. But I do think there were some results, though, that could have been better. When you look at protection, whether go to the interception, as Felipe's getting hit of the interception. There was another pass where we had, I think it was Trey Grimes open, and he's trying to throw a slant to him, and he's getting, couldn't even get his foot in the ground to get that ball out to throw it to him on the slant. And, a couple other times where we're getting the ball out on time with reads, but the quarterbacks, we're not holding the ball for sacks, or something we try to avoid, especially playing good teams, and try to make things, for Felipe to make some good, easy decisions, and be able to get the ball, build some confidence. And, even on some of those where we had guys potentially open, where we're getting hit as we're getting the ball out, which could be, which unfortunately could be explosive plays that weren't. But overall, that's probably why, for me, I look at it. A couple of the false start penalties, some of those things that kind of, I have pretty high standards too. So of what I expect for execution.
First all-important update, Tim Tebow never caught a college pass.
There we go.
Yes.
I didn't. Yeah, you guys had to look that up. I didn't.
Huh?
Well, you know what it was? If I'm thinking back, I don't know who threw well enough to throw it to him. I guess CI threw the ball well, but I wasn't as creative back then, I guess.
Oh, there's the problem.
We're kind of dull.
That's true. So you said in Atlanta during media days that obviously this team is about this team and building for this year, but while you're doing that, you're also trying to build the program.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So where do you think, holistically, big picture, you are in the development of the program?
Oh, I don't know. We're away. The program's a multi-year thing, So we're doing solid. The guys are buying in. Our recruiting staff's working their tail off to get better players here. There's plans in place about facility upgrades and improvements for us to get new facilities. Those are all program deals. That's a longer term issue. So those are. I don't know that we're much ahead of where we were in the program in July. Maybe if anywhere we're a little bit better, a little more I think it's a positive buy-in from the guys that are on the team. Because they're starting, like I said, in the off season. I think they got to see their physical gains and strength, and that built confidence. Then they're buying into our offense, defense, special teams, and basically our plan to win football-wise. And they're starting to see success with that as well. So that always helps and makes the buy-in a little bit easier. So for the program, I think that's a big plus moving forward. I know everybody within the program, whether it's the recruiting department, the administration, on the academic side of things, you're starting to see more and more buy-in from our players of getting everything done the right way and have the program running the way we want it run.
Outside, there's a perception that the East is significantly better than it has been in the past. What do you see? I know we're still early in the season, but.
Well, I do think this is funny. All right. The last game that I coached at Florida before I became head coach of Mississippi State was the 2008 SEC Championship, won by Florida. The East did not win another SEC Championship game, if I'm not correct, until this past year when I was hired at Florida again and left the West 4 days prior to that game. Okay? So it must all be me. Yeah. Because I seem to have been on the winning side, especially just for the championship game at least. I've been on the winning side. Whatever team's won the championship, I've been on that side now. 07 was LSU, right? So once since 06, I have not been on the side that ended up winning the championship. So listen. I think the league is so deep. Right? I think what are 8 teams ranked in the top 25 right now in the Southeastern Conference, which is double any other league. And I think that just shows the absolute depth that the league has top to bottom. I don't know that the East is stronger than the West or the West is stronger than the East. I just think the league as a whole has a tremendous amount of depth to it and a lot of good football teams.
Andrea, right here. You talked the other day about holding the rope after the game. Are there some other things during the offseason you can look back on and say, those made a difference? Saturday, the past 3 games.
Well, I think a bunch. I think a lot of the offseason builds up. We do a lot of different special. Nick does a great job with a lot of just different special workouts that we do. We have our St. Valentine's Day workout. We have stadium runs. I'm trying to think what were the other one we do. We do a bunch of different special deals. We'll mix them up from year to year. And I think those have a lot to do with our success because, when you get in those games, you need something to look back on. And the fact that you can look back and say, hey, I've trained so hard. I put myself through so much in that off-season training with so much intensity. I did it for this moment. I did it not, for when you're up big. I did it for when, we're down in the fourth quarter and we got to find a way to make the play to win the game. I have that to look back upon and that I can take with me moving forward. And really our off-season program's all about that. A lot of it's about getting bigger, faster, stronger. And getting in great condition, but a lot of it also is about mental toughness and how to overcome any type of adversity and take on any challenge that's put in front of you. You can go. Yeah. Stadium runs? Oh yeah, we've done that. Well, and one of the things you did, and one of the things that was different with the stadium run. If you saw one, I don't know if I saw this year. We did one with the rope, where you did it with your specific team. Right? And so you had to do the stadium run, and everybody had to hold the rope for the stadium run. They had longer ropes, but you had O-linemen and receivers both on that team, and you had to hold this rope. So, it's not like a skilled guy could go fast or one of those. A lot of different things we do as groups within their team. So that's just don't let go of the rope. And so you got this rope. And so sometimes, I want to go faster, I want to go slower, but you're as good as your teammates are. And we're as good as we are as a team. Not, hey, you see how fast I can run the stadium. That's great. But if you left your teammates behind, it does us no good. It's we're as good as our team is.
Hey Dan, before the season, the safeties that was a big question mark for this group. A lot of people said, and then even after Kentucky, they had a couple of blown plays there too. Then like the last 2 weeks, you have 2 straight weeks where the safety makes a play at the end of the game. What kind of changed there? Is that just Todd and Ron finding ways to kind of utilize those guys, or those guys buying in? Like, what sort of changed?
I think there's some experience that those guys are having and playing experience. I think Todd obviously tries to do a great job putting him in position, and Ron English is a big time. When you look at a guy that we're pretty fortunate to have a guy like him on staff, that's been a Division I head coach, has been a coordinator at a lot of major schools. Is an excellent football coach of preparing those young guys to get them here in those situations to be where you're supposed to be, when you're supposed to be there, and knowing the plays. You look at the last situation where we're bringing a lot of pressure. And Brad knows, by formation study, these are the 2 or 3 routes they're going to run out of this formation, and the ball's got to come out quick. So I know where I need to be to go make the play. And Ron does a great job of getting those guys in that position.
This may have been asked previously, but with Lucas Krull, like, he was a pitcher. How do you kind of find out about him during the process, the recruiting process?
During recruiting process, it came up. I don't know. Someone called and said, "Hey, there's this kid that is got great size and athleticism, supposedly. Hasn't played since high school and is at a junior college pitching." And I'm like, "They play football?" They're like, "No." But he I don't know. I mean, it was something like, right? He's got a 90-some mile an hour fastball, but he has no control or something. I don't know. You got to ask him what happened to his fastball or something like that. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, okay. I mean, that's a position potentially of need for us, not just this year, also in the future. We have 3 senior tight ends on the roster. So that all of a sudden, not just in the short term, but in longer term, to create depth for that position was huge. And so we, you got some high school film, and it looked okay. I think he went and did a workout and videotaped it and sent it out to a bunch of different schools. And went and kind of brought him on the visit, and he looks the part, and it's just a lot of evaluation, and you got to trust. Here's this big guy that was able to do it in high school. I think the fact he played tight end in high school helped, that he hit people. Because one of the things, you don't see him hit anybody because he hasn't played football, but you see him like run. I'm like, boy, he's a big guy with ball skills, looks really athletic, and in high school wasn't afraid to put his face on people and hit somebody. That's a guy worth taking a good chance on for. And I expect a lot of great things out of him. I think he's still just growing into getting into being back to being a football player and being used to being a football player, but he has a great skill set, right? I mean, he's like Liam Neeson in Taken. He's got a special set of skills. Right? It makes him really, really dangerous to defenses.
Coach, Voshan Joseph had a really impressive performance, 14 tackles, 2 sacks. Just what areas have you seen the most growth from him these first 6 weeks? And is that the type of performance you think he's capable of on a consistent basis?
Well, I hope so. I think he's a guy growing and learning about the defense. I know he's really athletic, and he plays really, really hard, plays with a reckless abandon out there on the field. You see him fly around. But also because of that, he gets himself out of position at times too. And so I think what you're starting to see is a guy to understand, hey, I don't lose how hard I play, don't lose the speed I play with or the reckless abandon I play with out there on the field. But I also have to understand I need to be in the right place at the right time and execute as well, because if I just run around out of control, you'll see big play after big play after big play hitting us because we don't have any gap integrity or lose gaps or we don't fit things right. And so I think as he matures and understands it's about executing the scheme defensively, you're going to see him continue to improve as a player because he does have that athleticism and that aggressiveness that make him are traits you look for in a linebacker.
Coach, could you talk about Tyree Cleveland as a gunner, and then how does the staff go about the process of figuring out a starting wide receiver's a good gunner?
Well, I mean, up there when you're playing missile on the punt team for us, you got to be able to release, and so that's a release, right? You got to be able. So receivers spend more time releasing than DBs, and he's got great speed, and then you got to have willingness to run hard down the field and go tackle somebody. So it's something that he's bought into, and he wants to be. He enjoys being a special teams player. Whether it's on kickoff or on punt, which are two critical teams for us. And so as we do it and identify it, we get a lot of special teams reps at practice. We do it in spring, we do in training camp, and during the week we get a lot of reps. So it's you're always trying to identify people. I still think we're still in the process of identifying guys to be great special teams players and find more of them. But he's one that, has stood out and has really kind of bought into that role of being a dynamic special teams player for us.
Felipe, the interception notwithstanding, I think he took 5 sacks against LSU last year, 0 this time. How much better just is his pocket awareness becoming and moving around there? And
I think a bunch. I think he's it's such a long process developing quarterbacks. And I think he's really starting to understand it by all the work you have to put in, the extra time you have to put in. Understanding that the game plan changes from one week to the next, which it seems pretty obvious, but I mean, it is a different deal of saying, hey, okay, well, Coach, we ran that play last week, and well, yeah, it's a different defense. It's going to look completely different this week. It's, hey, this is the check. Well, the check's different this week than it was last week, depending on who we're playing. And so I think all of that helps him. Has helped him a lot of understanding the game plan, understanding what we're trying to do, what we're trying to accomplish. And, if you already decision making, the key to decision making at the quarterback position is how fast you can make those decisions. Well, the more times you do it, the more experience you have, the better at it you are. But also the more work you put in. The simpler you can make it for yourself, where I know, okay, here's the play call, here's the check, here's the defensive scheme. This is what I think is going to happen. And if it doesn't happen, this is definitely going to happen. So I'm either here to here to here. I'm doing I'm doing this. That didn't happen. It was something different. Then I'm bang, bang, and get rid of the ball. And it allows you to be a quicker decision maker, which is I think the most important trait of, besides the intangibles of leadership and mental physical toughness, the most important trait of a quarterback is how fast you can make decisions and process information.
How do you manage Twitter with your players, the good and the bad? I mean, like Kentucky, they're getting killed, they're getting praised now. Voshan the other day saying he kicked the ball in the stands because he saw it on Twitter. I mean, but how do you kind of manage that? And it's a different dynamic, obviously.
I in today's world, I just tell them just make smart decisions. You know what I mean? When you do that stuff, you're always representing yourself. You're representing our football program. So as you put stuff out, I get, I'm more concerned about what they put out as to what they take in sometimes, that they make really good decisions that way because you're representing yourself and our football program. And what might seem funny or amusing to you might not be might not be how you really want yourself represented. And what you might find as a joke, other people might not realize it's a joke or funny or do something of that nature. So be really cautious about that. The other way is, hey, we're a team. So, you get, I don't know, right, that Twitter makes you smarter in making decisions. So, obviously, in Voshan's case, not so much. But, guys are out there. That's the world we live in. So I'm going to tell them, hey, you know what, we won. So guess what? Twitter's going to tell you how great we are. So if you like being told how great you are, get back to work and let's win again. Okay? If you'd rather be told that you're no good and you stink, well, then you don't have to work very hard, and everyone will tell us we won't win the game, and then everyone will tell us how bad we are. Because really, right, it's a really short difference. When you walk on campus like today, everyone's patting you in the back, right? It's only about 6 inches lower that they're kicking you in the rear end, right? It's about that much difference. So I like the pat on the back rather than the kick in the rear end. So let's just keep working to keep it 6 inches higher.
Have you ever had an edge rusher that can get the kind of bend that Polite does?
Boy, I don't think so. I mean, he's really explosive off the end, Been around guys that have, maybe some different deals with some power or length, like a Carlos Dunlap who had unbelievable length. Out of Preston Smith, who had like great length coming off the edge as well, with the explosion, but not just the quickness and the burst. I hope not, because I don't want to be offending anybody though that I've seen with Polite. I was 1 year at Syracuse. I was a grad assistant with Dwight Freeney. He was a freshman back in the old days, though, too. Like, right? You had the 3-a-days, like the freshmen came early, and so like as a GA and the coaches, like you'd be like the line, like you just didn't have enough guys. So I had to block. How'd that go? Yeah, we're real well. I'm not lined up there. I think it's just practice, man. Like, we're good just to learn where to go for those couple of days. But I think Polite is. He's got that type of explosion. Thanks.